Thank you for joining. I want to introduce our speaker today, Colleen Watson, who is president of Century Plant Publishing and is going to be delivering our content today. So, Colleen, I will turn it over to you, and thank you so much for putting this on for us.
All right. So, welcome everybody. It's going to be a pretty free-form session. You are going to need, it's a workshop, so you're going to leave with something. So have some paper, have a pen available with you so that you're going to get to leave here with an actual first draft of your About Me page. So I am going to share my screen. If I can do this. All right, so that's the screen. Still figuring this all out. Sorry, guys. All right. And so, all right, there we go, full screen. All right, I'm getting there, I promise.
That's
So
great.
this is called About Me Pages for Non-Writers. It's from 0 to first draft. So you will walk out of here with a first draft today, I promise. So let's get started. A little bit about me. Who am I? I am a former librarian. I am a novelist, and I am a business owner. And I share this with you because all three of these play a role in how I got to be who I am today. So you're going to hear about them all in the story. Okay, so let's do a who are you? So you're here because you have an About Me page on your website, but it needs a bit of a refresh. Is that one of you guys? You can raise your hand or just wave or whatever. Or you just started a business and you need help creating that About Me page for the first time. You don't know quite what to do. Or maybe you're just like, what is an About Me page? Why do we even need it? What's the point? So if you are any of these people, you're in the right place. Okay. So this is where my librarian hat came on. So once upon a time, I was like you. I was just starting my business. I was putting up my website. I was putting up my LinkedIn page, and I had to figure out my About Me page, right? And so I did what librarians do, which is I researched. I did a deep rabbit hole dive. I looked at a whole bunch of examples. I read a whole bunch of articles. So now you don't have to. I've done the work for you. And I came up to this. So at heart, an About Me page is pitching your product or your service or whatever it is to them, potential clients, while sounding like you. And we're going to go into the depth. We're going to be doing, all of our focus is going to be on that second half, the sounding like you part. But I want to touch a little bit on the pitching to them part, just briefly, because pitching to them brings up a lot of things. It can feel salesy, right? It can feel like you're bragging, right? And it can bring up imposter syndrome, like we all have it. So I always tell my clients to reframe the pitching part, reframe it, put it in another frame, and think of it more as what you do is helping them solve a problem. So you are not selling, you're serving, you're being of service. And that really does change the way we tend to think of this, right? Because when you're helping somebody, that's a different feel than when you're selling to them. So I just want to have you keep that in the back of your mind while we're doing this. And most importantly, your About Me page is part of your brand. So some of you are thinking like, it is? I have a logo. That's my brand. That's part of a brand, but a brand is a much bigger thing. So this is from the American Marketing Association. This is a name, term, design, symbol, or any feature that identifies one seller's goods or services as distinct from those of other sellers. And the most important word there is distinct, right? What makes you stand out? Like a lot of people sell jewelry, but if you get a little blue box, you know it's from Tiffany's, right? That's part of their brand. It's special, that little blue box. Your logo is part of it. Your tagline is part of it. Nike, just do it. That's all part of it. And one of the most distinctive brands you have as a small business owner is your story, right? That is a huge value proposition that you bring to the table. Okay. So don't be afraid of that. This is a good thing. It's about telling the world authentically who you are. That is part of your brand. So so now you have to tell your story, right? Part of this is your brand is it's you. And you have a story about how you got here. Hannah and I were just talking about that before we came on. She looked at me and said, "How did you move from a medical assistant to a business owner?" And I was just like, I shared the 2-minute short version of that particular story. Um, and story is really powerful. Story is one of the most powerful things that you can use as a business owner. So let's talk about your brain and how your brain interprets things. So your brain on facts. So like the fact is today is Wednesday. I've just said that. What happens? The sound waves that come out of my mouth go into your ear, into your auditory cortex, and they get retranslated back into words. And then they go into this area called the Wernicke area, where those words get meaning. And then you figure out what the sentence means. Those are only 2 areas of the brain. They're not very deep in the brain. They're kind of a surface area. But when you tell a story, this third area of the brain gets lit up. It's called the insular cortex. And this is one of those areas that does a whole bunch of things. But for our purposes, what the insular cortex does is it takes all of those sensory details you're putting into your story, smells, sights, sounds, all of that, and it's connecting, making an emotional connection to them. And if you sell anything, this is a fact. People do not buy based on facts and logic. They buy based on emotions, and then they give themselves a story later that it's more factual based as to why they did it. And this is a deeper area in the brain, right? This is really deep in our brains. And when you do that, it gives a much bigger impression. People get much more to hold on to. And if you throw your facts into the story, they're going to remember your facts so much better. And then if you do it really well, you can release a hormone called oxytocin, which is another one of those things in the body that does a great many things. But it also, one of the big things it does is it increases trust. And this is important. So this is like a tribal thing. Like if you're out of the tribe, you're dangerous. If you're in the tribe, you're not. And so when oxytocin gets released, that means you're a member of the tribe. It's a trust thing. And, trust is hugely important in business. So why is this important? Why do I care about words so much? What's the big deal? We're in a visual world, right? That doesn't matter. It's your tech, it's all of your technology underneath to make sure your website's good and that it's pretty. You don't need to worry about words. Well, I found these statistics, I thought they were fascinating. In 1960, and keep in mind, this is when we still had film, and this is when you had to take the film and take it to somebody else to develop your film. It was an expensive procedure. We still in the world took 3 billion photographs, right? In 2020, 3 years ago, that's 1.4 trillion photographs we took in a year because it's easy to take it. You don't have film. We share everything, right? But we are in an age of visual glut. And what that does is it does the dopamine hit. You're always looking for the next, the new. And you don't reflect. You really don't take the time to think about the photo, to look at the photo. So yes, you need to have a great landing page with beautiful photos and everything working really well, but you do need your words as well. And in fact, words are now more important than ever. So I wanted you to take a look at this. This is a few facts. So 50 milliseconds. That's how long you have before people start judging your website. That is 0.05 seconds. That's it. That's all you get. That is not a lot of time. 2 seconds. That is the max amount of time 43 people will give your website to download. 2 seconds. And then they want them to work well over every device, your laptop, your desktop, your tablet, your phone. Everything has to work perfectly. So I get it. I understand why people spend so much time on their visuals, on their tech, on their graphics, on making sure their technology works the best it possibly can. And then you get to, oh God, I have to write an about me page. I have to do words. I don't want to do this. I get it. I totally do. But look at this. Over 50% of the people to your site, if you've done that first part right, the next space they're going to go because they want to get to know more about you is your about me page. So it pays to make sure that it's up to the standard of that landing page that got them to do it in the first place. So this is important. I cannot stress this enough. Reading is slow. Like, we've managed to up the time for so many things. We have not managed to get people to read any faster than their eyes will move across a page. We just haven't. Reading takes time. And you're going to say to me, yeah, but Colleen, people skip. And that's totally true. Right up until the moment that you give them a hook, right up until the moment you give them something to focus on, then they don't. Then they stop. Then they read. And think about this, 1 minute of time in a world where you get 5 milliseconds before people start judging you, that 1 minute of time is suddenly a huge amount of time that they are investing in you and your website. So you might as well make it interesting. Okay. So, why is this important? Because here's the thing, other people may have your skills. Nobody has your story. Your story of how you got to be you and start your business and do whatever it is that you do is part of your unique value proposition. And some of you out there may be thinking, Colleen, I'm just like a mom who wanted to work from home, or I just, got laid off and decided to start my own gig. Maybe to you, your story seems so normal. Like, we all have our entrepreneurial heroes who did these big things and did these great leaps but here's the thing. The people that are looking for your help, they want to feel comfortable with you, right? And so if you are, a mom with kids at home and they're a mom with kids at home, well, you've already got something in common, right? You've already given them a way to connect with you and feel comfortable. So for those of you who are out there going, but I'm just like a normal person, how can my story do anything good? Your story is huge. And however normal it seems to you, there's somebody out there living your life who needs your help. And part of the reason they're going to hire you is like, oh my gosh, they're going to get what it's like to have a business with kids, or they're going to get what it's like to suddenly be single after your divorce and have to start over, or they're going to, whatever that story is, you're giving them a way to connect with you. And here's the thing, your stories, they're yours. Be proud of them. You should want to put your story up there because it is, you started a business. That's an amazing thing. Like, own that and put that up there as well. All right. So how do we do this? How do we tell your story? Well, I was trying to figure this out myself. I am a novelist. I've written a novel. It's not out yet, still in the works. But I want to self-publish. And part of the rules of that is you have to do all your marketing, including your blurb, that thing on the back of the book. And so when I was sitting there trying to figure out how to write my About Me page, I was stuck. Like, I had all these examples and all these things that people told me to include, but I couldn't figure out how to do it. And the examples didn't feel right to me. Like, how do I do this? How do I figure this out? And my novelist brain went, oh, Colleen, why don't you use the exact same thing you did for the blurb of your book? Because if you think about it, fundamentally, that is a book's About Me page. That is a couple hundred words. It tells you what the book's about. It kind of gives you the tone. It, is it a mystery? Is it literary fiction? All of that stuff fits into like that couple hundred words, right? Same idea. And so what I did for my blurb, I thought, why couldn't I use this for my About Me page? And so there's a writerly saying that good writers borrow, great writers steal. And I figure if you're going to steal from somebody who really knows what they're doing. So I stole from Pixar. This is called the Pixar 5 sentence method, right? It is how they figure out the plot of every single movie they make. Pixar does everything in reverse. Pixar, this is the first thing they do. They figure this out. And from this is the spine of the story. From this, then they figure out the 3 act structure and the characters and how it's going to, what the beginning, middle, end is. And then they write a script and then they start. But they have worked on the story so much so when they get to the advertising, the animation, everything is hammered out and they can just focus, right? This is the base that everything that they do is on. And I figure, well, if it works for them, I certainly couldn't go wrong with it. So I want to explain to you what each of these are. They're open-ended questions, how they work, how they build a story, and then we are going to play with it by doing some writing. Okay, you ready for this? So the first sentence is, once upon a time. This is, in a movie, this is your opening shot. And so I'm going to use an example, and you're going to learn something about me today, which is that I love musical theater. I'm a Broadway girl. And so the example I'm going to use is from the musical Fiddler on the Roof, right? Because Fiddler on the Roof does this in such a great way. So literally, once upon a time, it sets up the world. And so in Fiddler on the Roof, the main character, his name is Tevye, comes on, starts talking, and then he breaks into this song. Hasn't even been on the stage a minute. And the song is called Tradition. And what this song does is it lets you understand everything the role of every single person in this village that they're in and the value of the village, which is this is a poor Jewish village in Russia at the turn of the last century. And what they believe is it's a dangerous time for them right now, but they believe if they practice their traditions perfectly, God will protect them. This is the central core value of this. And this is like, so in a movie, this is like your establishing shot. This is like kind of the first 5 minutes. It tells you where you are, gives you a sense of the time, gives you a sense of where your location is, and from there. The next one is every day. So every day is when you hone in on who you're going to be focusing in on. So every day is what you do every day. So if you get up and you eat breakfast and you see people living their life, right? That is, there's a reason for this, because the next one is one day. One day is what I call the monkey wrench moment. That's where you're living your life. You're doing your thing. And the universe, God, whoever, throws a monkey wrench into your life and puts you off on a different direction. Okay? So in Fiddler on the Roof, the monkey wrench moment comes with this song called Matchmaker, Matchmaker. So it's a normal day. Tevye is off. He's the milkman. He's off delivering milk. And he has a wife and 5 daughters. And we see the 3 oldest daughters, Seidel, Hol, and Chava. They're doing their daily chores. It's a normal day. But Seidel, who is the oldest, is on the marriage market. And she keeps meeting with the matchmaker. And her sisters are young and they're dreamy and they're idealistic. And they're like, oh my gosh, I can't wait for you to get married. And then I can get married. And then, and that sort of situation. And in the middle of them just chattering away, doing the chores, Seidel has a moment where she just screams, ah! And she falls to the floor and she cries. That is the monkey wrench moment. How? Because this is what happens. The sisters are like, what the heck is going on? As good sisters do. They go over, they're like, what's the matter, Seidel? And she explains the reality of what it means to be on the marriage market, which is if a man pays enough money in the dowry to marry her because they're very poor, she's going to have to marry somebody, whether he's a good guy or not, whether she wants to or not. If somebody offers her father enough money, she's going to have to go with them, right? She has no power. She has no choice. And some of these men are pretty awful. So, one of the things, so the song is Matchmaker, Matchmaker. And then the first part of the song, young, dreamy, romantic girls. In the middle part of the song, what Zeidel does is she starts telling them things the matchmakers actually said to her about some of these matches. And so, like, I'm going to tell you one of them, and I'm not going to sing it because I don't want to hurt your guys' ears. But so the matchmaker has said to Chava this very thing, and she tells it to her sisters. You heard he has a temper. He'll beat you every night. So you are all right. Like, these are the choices that she has for a husband. And the end of the song is the sisters make a pact and they decide that they are going to not use the matchmaker to get married. They're going to find their own husbands. You're like, well, big deal. They're going to break tradition. And since we've already established that in this world, tradition is a big deal, this is a monumental decision. So these three sentences, answering them, if this is a movie, this is the first 15 minutes. You basically set up the protagonist's world, and then something happens and it blows up. But you need these three things. Why? You need the first two questions because that tells you what's at stake. Like, who do they leave behind? What do they risk losing if everything goes wrong? And then you need the monkey wrench moment because that is the moment where the main character has to act. They have to do something because something's come along in their world and blown it up, right? These are the three main elements of a story. But in a movie, like, this is the first 15 minutes, set you up. And then because of that is everything that happens from the monkey wrench moment when you make a decision, right? So in the case of Fiddler on the Roof, okay, so they're going to find their own husbands. How do you do that without losing your faith or your family or your community? Can you do that? That's the rest of the movie, right? That is what, like, this entire rest of that movie is about, is how do you do that? And then the last one is Until Finally. Until Finally is the new normal. So the girls have their marriages. The family is different now. That is what the Until Finally looks like. And so some of you are like, I used a fictional example. Some of you are like, well, how do I do this? Well, that's what we're going to talk about now. So you are going to do this. So you're going to need a piece of paper. And I prefer a pencil over a pen because pencils have erasers. And I'm all for a visual metaphor because nothing is written in stone. So here's what we're going to do is you're going to answer all of these questions. We're going to take 3 minutes a question for 15 minutes. And some of you, like, you are orderly people. You need to do this in chronological order. So you're going to start with the Once Upon a Time and you're going to go to the Until Finally, right? That's great. Some of you, it's much easier to go like, okay, well, I know where I'm at now. Let me write about that and then reverse engineer. That's totally fine too. Some of you, it's like, oh my gosh, that monkey wrench moment for me was something and it's coming up now that you're talking about it. I want to start there. Absolutely. Start with whatever you feel comfortable. You might jump around a little bit. That's okay too. The point of this is to put everything on the piece of paper. And I don't want you to edit at this point. You might say, oh, no, that's a life thing. That's not a business thing. That doesn't go in there. If your brain is kicking it up, put it down on a piece of paper. You can edit out what you don't want later. It is much easier to have too much and edit than have too little and try to expand. So if your mind kicks up something and you are, don't judge, just write, okay? And for those of you who like, okay, we're actually doing something and I have to write something and your brain has just had a complete blank and you don't know where to begin, start with the easy things, the things that you know about. Once upon a time, I was born in this town to these two people who did this for a living. I had this number of brothers and sisters. And when I was little, I wanted to be this when I grew up, right? That's easy because those are answers you know about. And the point is, you're supposed to get words on a page, okay? And so we're going to spend 3 minutes on each question. All right. I have my phone. That's what I realized I forgot my phone. 3 minutes a question for a total of 15 minutes. I'm going to give you a 30-second warning so you can wrap up. Take some deep breaths in between. The brain requires oxygen to do creative work, so always do that. But grab your pencils and whatever you're going to be writing on. And we are going to start with wherever you're going to be at, whatever feels comfortable. The 3 minutes, are you ready? Get set, go, start now. Now officially have a first draft of your new and or improved About Me page. So now that you have that and you've given yourself some mental kudos because you absolutely deserve it, it's time to ask you a question. Why did I make you do this? Notice we got this far into this and I have not answered that question yet. Sneaky, aren't I? But there are basically two reasons that I make you do this. The first is the professional reason. You now have a writing sample. Some of you are just like, but I'm not a writer. Well, do you text? Do you use Slack? Do you send emails? Do you write memos? Congratulations, you're a writer. And you have a voice. And now you have a piece of writing that adequately portrays what your voice sounds like. And I can't tell you how many people I'm just like, I'm not a writer, so I hope you could do something with this. And they give it to me, and you will be amazed because you always give me a hook. You always write something that you don't think about that's deeply revealing of who you are, right? So congratulations. Yay, you now have a writing sample of what you write when you're not trying to be professional, when you're not overthinking the words, when you are just being you. This is your authentic writing. The second one is the more personal reason. And I always find that, we have a story we tell ourselves in our head, and that's one thing, but seeing it written down, that's another situation altogether. And that can also bring up feelings. So when you're looking at this in the future, I'm going to just ask you to be kind to yourself. Treat yourself with grace. If there are parts of the story that still make you cringe, life goes on and you have the right to move on from things. So treat yourself with grace. Okay. That's probably the one piece of advice I would give every entrepreneur. It's a hard gig, right? It can be a lonely gig. Don't be hard on yourself. Treat yourself with grace. All right. So what do we do now? You have your first draft. What's next? Well, the next step is that you get out your calendar or your phone, whatever it is, and you make an appointment for 1 week from today to revise it. Why do I do that? 1 week? That's because revision requires just a little bit of distance and a little bit of mental space from what you just did. You're too emotionally attached to it because, yay, you have a first draft. But set an appointment a week from today on your calendar at some point to do this, and then put it away. Don't think about it. Look at it fresh. I have a coordinator that you can put your phone up to, or I'll give you my email in just a minute, and it will send you a gentle reminder about a week from today, where it's just like, hey, here's your gentle reminder. And with that comes my revision recipe worksheet. That's absolutely free. That will take you through the process of, okay, how do I revise this thing now that I have a first draft? Because that can, some of you may be really good at revising. For those of you who not, this just gives you a little bit of a boost. And then keep the appointment, right? So that is it for the class. I've taken you as far as I can take you today. I hope you had a great time. Does anybody have any last minute questions that they want to ask? No? We all feeling pretty good about this whole thing today? Hopefully. All right. So, thank you so much. Here's all of my various information. I'll leave it up there if you want to write it down. I also offer a free 30-minute anything session that you want to talk to me about anything marketing. I'm all game for that. You can just write that down. But we are good. Thank you so much for coming today. Thank you, Hannah, and you guys for hosting me. And I will turn it back over to you. I'll stop sharing my screen. Or everybody got what they need? Did everybody write down a way to get in touch with me? Okay, don't want to do that before we have all had our chance, but I will stop sharing now. And thank you all for coming. And I will turn it back over to you, Hannah.
Yeah, thank you so much, Colleen. That was really helpful and good just to have some time to actually do it and get some things on paper. So I hope that was helpful for all of you. I just put a scheduling link into the chat there. If anyone wants to meet with one of our SBDC consultants to talk through, anything marketing or anything other related to your business, those are free remote consulting appointments. An example of something that might be related to the About Me pages, as you're working on the content for your website. If you have questions about the logistics of your website or hosting or domains or, anything on that techie side, we have marketing consultants that would be in digital marketing specifically, consultants that would be happy to help you out with those types of things, but all sorts of topics that we can help with. So I will be sending the follow-up email either later this afternoon or tomorrow with the link to the recording and this information as well for scheduling. So thank you all so much for joining us, and we wish you a great rest of your day.